Okay, welcome back everybody. As long as modelers have been building models, the goal has been to try to make the model look like the real thing instead of a bunch of pieces glued together. So one of the products that has been invented to help us is modeling putty. Now here in front of you I have two tubes of squadron putty, green and white, and one tube of Tamiya. And using these three putties I pretty much get the results I need. Now I realize that opinions on putties are all over the map, and some people don't like squadron putty, but I'm explaining to you how I use it and why I like it. If you have a different system that works for you, then that's fine, but this is what I use and what gets me the results that I feel that I need. Okay, squadron green. Advantages of squadron green are, number one, its color. You can put this onto any color plastic and you can see it very well and see exactly what you're working with. Another advantage is it's a solvent-based putty. It has toluene in it, so it adheres to plastic very, very well, and it's not going to flake up or chip up, generally speaking, as long as you're not too aggressive with it. The other thing I like about this putty is it's easy to sand. You can put it on, you can sand it off, it comes off easy, you don't burn out your sandpaper too much. And that is also a bit of a drawback, because if you sand too aggressively with this, then you'll end up taking off too much and you will lose whatever feathered edge you're trying to achieve. So the trick to using squadron putties, since they're soft, is to graduate your sandpaper down from medium to fine to extra fine as you're getting close to taking off the amount of putty you want to take off when you're doing your sanding. If you try to sand it all the way down with just medium grit, you're not going to get a great feathered edge with it. Another trick, of course, or must I should say, is to use water. Water acts as a lubricant for this putty, for your sanding, and also it keeps the dust down when you're trying to sand. Alright, so all my basic body work is done with squadron green. Now once I prime the model, and I'll have either a white or a gray primer coat on it, I'll usually notice some flaws that I'll have to go back and fix. That's just the nature of the way primers work. And you can just see, so much better than you can with just bare plastic. And I'll go back and I'll use white putty. And the reason I use white putty is because it doesn't have as great a contrast as the green putty. So the very advantage of using a green putty when you first start working a model is a disadvantage when you're getting ready to paint it. So when you prime it, it's good to switch to the white and fix your minor flaws. And then when you put your color coat on, it's much easier to cover this white than it is the bright green of the green putty. Now, these two putties pretty much are all I need in most cases: squadron green, squadron white. Now, if I have a particular seam that's giving me some trouble and it's not feathering well for whatever reason, I'll sometimes turn to my white putty. And this stuff works great. It goes on really creamy, nice and smooth, and it feathers very, very well. The reason I don't use this all the time is because it's also kind of hard. And if you were to do, for example, the space shuttle that we're working on now, if you were to do all that putty work with this stuff, then you'd have your work cut out for you sanding it. So it's best to use this for small little areas where you're having difficulty getting a nice feathered edge on a seam. So those are the putties, and I realize there are other ones out there. 3M Acryl is very popular with some folks. I find it a little bit too hard, but this is what I use, and that's what works for me. Okay? Now once you get the putty on, then you got to get it off. So here we have some modeling files, and these are the minimum I think you really need to cover most things you're going to need to do with the average kit. This is a rat tail file, and this is what most modelers start out with. This is the pretty much general purpose catch-all file. This is a flat file, and a square, and a half round. So using these four, pretty much I think at a minimum, this is going to get you where you need to get as far as doing your file work. Now, these here are microfiles, and these are useful to get into really, really tight areas. And the basic shapes are still here, You've got your rat tail, you've got your square, and you've got your half round. Unfortunately, these are a bit more expensive than your regular files, which usually go for $1 or so each. This little set of 3 was $11, $12. It's marketed by testers, and but they're nice to have. They're nice to have. Now, I was at a hobby show a few weeks ago, and they were selling all sorts of nice, nifty little tools, and I came across this little set. I have no idea who made it. There's no brand name on it or anything, but this was about $10, and it has 12 different shaped files in it. As you can see, they're all marked here. So if you get a hold of a set like this, then you pretty much got everything you need for sure. Alright, so once we're done with the filing, then it's off to the sanding. This is K&S sanding film. Again, it's one of many different brands you can get. Testers make some, and there are other companies. This is a plastic back sanding film, which means that you can use it wet, and that's really important, and I described the reasons why a couple minutes ago. I usually cut out a section of it that might be an inch or maybe 2-inch square, because you don't need this whole big sheet when you're sanding like on a 72nd scale jet, which is the kind of stuff I will typically do. So good to have, pretty much a must for most modelers. Next thing up, these are Squadron sanding sticks. Now, Squadron's not the only manufacturer, of course. Other companies make them, but these go for about $1.50 to $2. You can get them for $1.50 on sale, and I like them a lot. They're not good for all applications, but if you're trying to put some pressure and get some leverage on a specific little spot, then these are good things to have. So I usually use a medium, a fine, and extra fine, and they pretty much just complement the sandpaper. Now, you can also get some smaller files, or sanding sticks rather, and these are produced by Stevens International, but again, other companies make them, and these are very, very, very useful in getting into tight little areas, just like the microfiles are useful for getting in tight little areas. You would follow a microfile with this type of sanding stick to get in there. So, good thing to have. Okay, a couple more things to finish up with here. This is made by Alpha Abrasives. It is a little rubber sanding block with a sandpaper adhesive pad attached to it. I saw this on the shelves at the local hobby shop for a few months and didn't really think I really needed it, but one day I went ahead and bought it and tried it, and it actually works pretty good. That is, until you get water up underneath the adhesive pad, and once that happens, it's only a matter of time before the adhesive pad comes off of their little rubber block here. So that's that. You're done as far as using the rubber pad goes at that point. However, you can put another adhesive sandpaper pad on here, and you can keep going. And even at that, your original adhesive sandpaper pad that came off is still just about the right size and usually has plenty of grit still left on it. You can still use it to do hand sanding. So it's not the end of the world if you lose the sandpaper pad here. You still have other options. So pretty good little system. I was actually surprised at how good it worked. It's especially good for large flat areas, and kind of nice. Next thing is the Flexi file. These have been around for a couple decades. I used to have just one. I would change the tape on it, whatever grit I needed. But here recently, I've bought 3 of them, and I keep a medium, a fine, and extra fine tape strip on here, so I can just grab whatever I need. They're great for getting into tight little areas. So this, combined with your small sanding sticks and your large sanding sticks and your miniature files, you can pretty much get at anything you need to get at. Now, the last thing, and I forgot to actually talk about this before when I was talking about putties, is Squadron Green in a bottle. This is nothing more than regular Squadron Green thinned out with acetone. In my case, it's fingernail polish remover. And this is really good. You put it on a regular paintbrush, and you can apply exactly what you need onto a very, very small area in a tight spot. And works good. The only thing you need to be concerned about really is it drying out. So double cellophane seal it when you close it back up, And also throw in a squirt of acetone to keep this thing solvent, because if it dries out, then it's toast. You might as well just throw this bottle away and start over again. But it is a lot easier to use sometimes than using regular putty with a putty knife, and because sometimes that doesn't really work in the tight spaces. So good little tip here. Alright, I think that's it. And so if you have any questions about this, email me, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.